So, hello everybody. Welcome to this session where I'm going to talk about this topic, how I went from being bedbound to living life again. So, if you are watching live, just say hello in the chat. If you're watching the replay, put hashtag replay. Let me know you can hear me. Let me know you can see me. So, I want to talk about my experience of having 8-9 years of ME, CFS and fibromyalgia, being completely bedbound at times and finding my way back to life again. I'll talk briefly about what it was like. Number 2, what kept me stuck. Number 3, what helped me heal. And number 4, some hindsight insights. Even since I got back to work, back to life, I've learned lots more about what can help people with ME, CFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID and related conditions. So I know how hard it is to have a body that's not cooperating, to feel isolated and hopeless, to feel like, life is passing you by, because that was my experience at one point. I remember my siblings going to festivals, going to Glastonbury Festival, which is a huge festival in the UK. Excuse me. And I just had to miss out on all that fun. And that was hard. But actually, that became one of my missions, to get well enough to be able to go to a festival, and then I did that. So I've been there. I want to share my story, not just the challenges, but also I want to share some tools, resources and practices that help me heal. Now, my experience might be different to yours. Okay, so you have to decide what's relevant, and also consider that what I share with self-compassion, you are doing your best. Okay, if you're going through this now, if you're fairly limited in what you can do, then I just want you to know that I feel for you. I know what it feels. I know how challenging it is, and I'm rooting for you. I hope my experience inspires you and shows you that recovery is possible. So let's dive into it. As I say, if you are watching live, just say hello in the chat. So first of all, what was it like? Well, for a long time, I felt that my life wasn't really mine anymore. I was completely bedbound at one point. I wasn't leaving the house. I was able to get to the bathroom, but that was it. I wasn't leaving the house. And, just doing 1 minute of exertion could exhaust me. I remember there were times when I couldn't speak to people. I remember staying at my parents' house at one point and having to say to my mum, I can't talk right now, okay? I just haven't got the energy to do that. And I remember someone came to visit, and I wasn't even able to leave my bed to say bye to them. And initially, I think my mum thought I was being a bit rude, but actually, that was just because I couldn't manage it. And that was a first for me, to actually not do something just to keep other people happy. I recognized I needed to actually prioritize myself. So every day felt a bit like a battle with my own body, and emotionally it was tough. The isolation was challenging. As I say, I felt like life was just happening around me and I was watching it go by. So the next part, I want to talk about what kept me stuck. And this is with the benefit of hindsight, but looking back, I realized that not really understanding what was happening in my body, not understanding the connection between mind, body, nervous system, and the chronic fatigue I was experiencing, and how that impacted recovery, was a big piece of the jigsaw, and I didn't have that understanding. Secondly, I now realize that stress was a huge factor. I didn't realize how much the stress response was keeping my body in a state of tension, making it really hard to rest properly and to heal. And third, I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a guide or the tools that may have helped me. I was trying to figure it out all on my own, and that's really hard to do when you're already kind of overwhelmed and depleted. So I just remember feeling frustrated, feeling like I was trying to spin the wheels but not getting anywhere. I wonder if you can relate to that. Just let me know in the chat. So the third part I want to talk about is what helped me heal. So the turning point for me was really learning how to support my body's healing and doing that kind of step by step. And the first step was de-stressing. So how did I do that? Well, I learned that I could unravel the stress. I learned some brain training techniques, and one of the things I learned is that some of our responses that generate stress are subconscious. We don't even realize we're doing them. So I learned how to spot those responses, and once I had spotted them, I could start to shift them. So I recognized that some of the stress was external, other people not understanding the condition, medical professionals being dismissive. But I realized also that some of the stress was internal, because how I responded even to those people who weren't being helpful was something that I could influence. Okay. And I realized, that I could work on my responses. I could make sense of my triggers, and I could identify beliefs that were not helping me. So, for example, if someone was dismissive, it almost felt like I was saying to myself that they're right and my experience is not valid. And of course, that's a daft thing to be saying, but that is not something I was doing consciously. It was more a subconscious response. Once I understood that, I was able to step back and think, well, actually, that belief isn't true. And just because someone doesn't understand the condition does not invalidate the condition. And with that, I was able to just feel a greater sense of peace and just have that understanding that they've got limited understanding. They're at fault here, not me. Okay. And I also understood that when people are being judgmental, there is usually a feeling behind that. So they are feeling powerless. They're not, my condition, which they feel they can't help, makes them feel uncomfortable. So it's easier to judge me than it is to actually embrace the fact that they are feeling powerless and to own that. Let me know if that makes sense. So one of the strategies I developed to help me de-stress is a very simple technique called the timeout relaxation technique. And this is a useful technique if you recognize that your mind is going 24 to the dozen and, it's a bit like a washing machine on a fast spin cycle. The timeout relaxation technique is a very simple way of just slowing your mind down. So I have linked that resource below this video. Okay, so do download that if you feel it would be helpful. I use it often if I do feel ungrounded. I also use it if I wake up at night and I start thinking, because as soon as I start thinking about stuff, then that stops me from getting to sleep. And using this simple technique has helped me get to sleep many, many times. I've also shared it with lots of clients who also find it helpful. And I've shared it with clients who say, I can't relax. And they've used this technique for 1 minute, and 95% of them, if not more, have said, oh, actually, I feel more relaxed. All right, so do access that technique if you think that'd be useful to you. I needed to ensure, the second thing was to ensure that I got proper rest when I needed it. So, for instance, if my body was dealing with a virus, if I was just feeling exhausted at times because I hadn't been sleeping well, then I recognized that there were times when I was lying in bed but I wasn't resting. I was stressing. Okay, so I had to learn how to practice techniques, including the technique I've just shared, to help me get into a relaxed state. I had to learn to listen to my body and stop pushing myself, because often when I had any energy, that's what I would do. I'd push myself and then I would crash. And then when I crashed, I'd give myself a hard time for the fact that I'd crashed. So I have made a video on what rest is and what rest isn't, so do check out that video. So the third thing is I needed to actively start focusing on activating my healing state. Initially, that meant gentle practices like meditation, mindfulness, slow intentional movement to calm my nervous system, because often I was doing tasks in a hurry because I thought my energy would run out. And of course, because I was getting into that stress state, it just meant I was using my energy more inefficiently. And we also know that when we're in a state of stress, the body stops producing and storing energy. Okay, so that's why healthy people, their energy production cycle works, because they're actually just in a relaxed state. And even if they are a bit stressed, they don't get so depleted as someone whose battery is quite low, in their charge. So what I realized, though, was that doing those things, just the meditating for 30 minutes, let's say twice a day, wasn't enough if I was stressing the rest of the day. And therefore, some of these other strategies that I've mentioned were useful, like just slowing down when I was doing an activity. It might be cooking a meal. I was doing everything in a hurry, and actually I needed to just slow down a bit. If I needed to take a break from preparing a meal, just sit down for a few minutes and reconnect to my body, just check in, then that's something that I did, because at one point I was just pushing myself and not pausing when I needed to. I recognized that I needed to tap into my inner wisdom, and you have this same inner wisdom. It's like the blue sky, it's always there, but we don't always tap into it, because often we're tapping into the fear and operating from that place of fear. A really simple technique for tapping into that wise part of you is a technique called the flip the switch. And again, I've linked this resource below this video, so do check that resource out. It's a really simple technique, but it's a way of you reconnecting to that wise part of you that has shown up many times in your life. I'm going to suggest that you've been faced with a challenging situation many times and you responded in a resourceful way. Is that true? If that is the case, just put a yes in the chat. Let me know. But I suspect there are many times when you've responded, maybe it was you dealing with a challenging situation, or even a friend or family member, someone you cared for, and you just responded in a resourceful way. Okay. So I also recognized that I needed to learn to listen to my body. So that relates back to the point I was just making about preparing food in a hurry and not just being connected to my body. Specifically, learning to listen to the sensations in my body and the emotions. So Vivian says, yes, she recognizes that's the case. I recognized that I needed to really tune in to those sensations, to those emotions, because they were clues as to what was going on, what was triggering me. And the more I could make sense of that, the more I could take appropriate action. Okay, so I needed to befriend the part of me that was feeling stressed, anxious, frustrated, and listen to that part of me. Okay, I also needed to learn to listen to that part of me. For instance, if I was lying in bed feeling frustrated, what I recognize now that was a signal that what I was doing wasn't really meeting my needs. And actually, maybe I needed to have a little bit of stimulation, even if it was just for a short period of time. Maybe I needed a bit of fun. Maybe I needed a bit of connection. Okay, just lying in bed feeling frustrated wasn't actually going to help me heal. All right, so it would be better for me to just do something to give myself a bit of what I needed. It might have been, as I say, fun, connection, stimulation. So that part of me was saying, this isn't working. Whatever you're doing right now isn't meeting a need. And that part just wanted something different. So I needed to listen to that part of me that, if you like, wanted to start something. But I also needed to listen to that part of me that was saying, actually, that's enough now. Let's pause from what we're doing and do something different. I've been working with a few clients this week who have been talking about the fact that they ignore their body because they're doing something enjoyable, and then when they finally stop, it's because they have to, because they're feeling very depleted. And even if we're doing something enjoyable, let's say you're reading a book and you're enjoying the book, there might come a point where your body says, okay, that's enough now. It's time to do something different. You're using your mind, but you're not really engaging with your body. Might be useful to do some gentle stretching, obviously, if that's something you can manage. Might be useful just to do some relaxation or grounding exercise if you're not able to move your body physically. So paying attention to what my body needed, and that might be, as I say, a need for stimulation, fun, connection, might be a need for some kind of movement. It might be a need for nourishment, okay? Might even be a need to go to the loo. I've had clients say that they're not good at tuning into their body, so sometimes they have to rush to the bathroom, okay? So that's just a sign of how disconnected they are from their body. So the fourth thing is that visualization was a game changer. I invite you to consider that we visualize all the time, all right? Unfortunately, some of us are using visualization in a way that's not helpful. So one of the things I started doing is I visualized myself playing one game of tennis every day. And you may have heard me talk about this before. After a while, I realized I didn't need to lose a point. I could win every point. So I started doing aces and brilliant passing shots. And actually, it was a way of just feeling good. And, you know, it's kind of in that moment, I was imagining feeling healthy, feeling happy and thriving. And it gave me something to work towards. And when I played tennis for the first time, actually my serve was better than it had been. Didn't have the power, but I did have the accuracy. Okay. So the fifth thing, and this relates back to what I was talking about earlier, is that I needed to find some moments where I was in flow and experiencing joy. So initially I didn't realize how important it was just to find little moments of joy. For me, one of the ways I did that is playing the guitar. And what I realized is that often I wouldn't pick up the guitar for ages. And when I did pick up the guitar, I didn't want to stop. And so I would deplete my energy because I kept going until I was exhausted. And I realized the antidote was just to pick up the guitar every day. And that's something I do now. I'm learning the piano. And each day I aim to play the piano just for 5 minutes. Like last night, I was quite tired, had a busy day, but I still, before I went to bed, just played the piano for 5 minutes, and it just made me feel good because I just love hearing the sound of certain chords. So it's not just about fixing what's wrong, okay? It's about finding things that light you up, even if it's just in small ways. So what would that be for you? What is something you could do currently that would just bring you a bit of joy? Let me know in the chat. Your ideas might help somebody else. Okay, it could be, as I say, something small, like even just enjoying a few pages of a book you're enjoying, rather than pushing yourself to read the whole chapter. Might be sitting in the sunshine. Might be just looking out the window, watching the clouds go by. So think about what that is for you, okay? The sixth thing is that I used what I call training wheels. I didn't try and do everything at once. I started small. I started doing things in a way that was manageable and built up slowly. So, for example, with physical activity, I just tuned into what my body felt that it could do on any particular day. Now, I understand some people are not very good at tuning into their body. I have made some other videos about how to approach movement, so do check those out if that is an issue for you. So the fourth thing I want to talk about is the hindsight insights I got. So looking back, there are things that I wish I'd known back then when I had ME/CFS. One is that, and I alluded to this earlier, symptoms and emotions are clues. The emotional brain, you have two intelligences. One is your emotional brain, one is your thinking brain. And your emotional brain sends signals when we're not feeling safe and when we're not feeling fulfilled. Okay, now this is a big topic, and this is something I teach people in the Mind Body Reconnect, an approach that I've learned recently, and I've found it super helpful for myself, and clients I'm working with are also finding it helpful as a way of, it's a very different way of looking at symptoms. Okay, so MBR, Mind Body Reconnect, looks at symptoms as signals from the emotional brain that we need to pay attention to, make sense of, because they can help us identify what action we need to take. And when we take small, appropriate actions, the symptoms can subside. Okay, it's a big topic. I have made a few videos. One is your body's clues to healing. One is brain training, 6 reasons people feel stuck and 6 solutions. And the third video is the most powerful mind-body strategy I learned. I will link these videos below this one. So if you're interested to watch those videos, just comment video and I will link them below. So that's the first thing. I really have learned that I need to think about symptoms and emotions in a very different way. As I mentioned, it would have been really useful for me to have a guide, a clear plan, and a mentor to kind of guide the way, because recovery can be overwhelming, and having someone to show me the way would have made a difference. And I did get someone to help me at one point, but on reflection, I realized that I needed a bit more help. So if you are on this journey, I want to remind you that healing is possible. It might not look the same for everybody, so it's important that you discern what is right for you. But your body is capable of incredible things. And when we listen to our body and give it what it needs, that is setting ourselves up for healing. So that's my story from being completely bedbound to living life again. I got back to the point where I was able to work again, I say, to go to festivals, to excuse me, so I got a little tickle. I was able to, as I say, to go back to work, to do festivals again, to play tennis again, to get an injury a while back, which has slowed me down a bit, but life is still great, and I will get back to playing tennis soon. So it wasn't easy. It did take time, but it was worth it. So if you're in the thick of it right now, be patient with yourself. Start small, celebrate every little win, and build hope. So do let me know if there is something that you feel has helped you on your recovery. Then pop it in the chat. Let me know what it is. And if you are struggling with something, let me know, because if I feel I can create some content around that issue, I will. So do support other people by sharing your comments. Thanks for watching. If this video resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification button. Remember, you're not alone. I am rooting for you. And I want to do what I can to help. One of the things I'm restarting in January is the resilience group coaching. This is meeting twice a month. You don't have to pay anything, but you are welcome to make a donation. If you'd like to join, just pop group in the chat. It's a really fun experience. You're with other people who are going through the same thing, and one of the things people say often is actually it's really reassuring to know that other people are dealing with the same issues, and actually listening to you working with people helping them find solutions really helps me also. So as I say, if you'd like to know more about that, just pop the word group in the chat. I'm going to be starting next week. We'll meet twice a month and at different times, so that hopefully there's a time that suits you. If you've got any questions, get in touch. So thanks for watching. Keep up the great work. Dare to dream big dreams. Wishing you great health. Bye for now.